Sorry. Do you want me to do it again?
One more time.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Repeating for the benefit of the public, anyone who is viewing over Zoom, we believe we were muted when I last said this. So the public meeting policy or meeting room policy, since our last meeting, which included a draft of that policy has gone through 2 rounds of comments that included comments from the staff, comments from the board, and all of those individuals collectively took into consideration comments from the public made both at these meetings and received via email. It also went through several rounds of review from our attorney. Modifications of note, the biggest one is the definition of community organization, that being the organization that can bring in outside speakers. An original draft of the policy many months ago only had that as a 501c3. That definition has been expanded. You have to be one of 3 things. You don't have to be all of them. You just have to be one of them. One of them remains a 501c3. The second thing is an entity that is registered with the New York State Attorney General's Charities Bureau, which includes basically any organization that accepts donations with very limited exceptions under law. And the third one is a not-for-profit corporation that has authorization to do business in New York. That just means that you are a legal entity that is formed to perform charitable purposes. Again, you do not have to be all 3 of those things. You just have to be one of those things. And if you are not one of those things, one of those that a community organization can sponsor you to make use of the community organization opportunities. The other aspect of note is some wordsmithing to the security provision. Nothing significant has changed about the spirit of that. There's been discussions about adding extra protections to ensure that no discrimination takes place under that provision. All of those additional protections that we have previously discussed remain in there, as well as the opportunity to appeal if there is, if you disagree with the library's decision to require security. So if there's anything else, board, please let us know.
Yeah, I'll just add, unless you want to wait for the motion to have a discussion or comments.
Let's get a motion going here. So
moved.
okay, so Charmaine moves to adopt the meeting room policy, correct? Effective July 1. That's your motion?
Sorry.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you wanted, whatever you needed. Yes.
Okay.
I first. Yes.
I need a second.
I will second that motion.
Second. Okay. Discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because there's been a lot of discussion, amongst the board and from the public about the definition of a community organization. I too, want it to be, open. And so the idea of the sponsoring organization, it's something that is used in grant making. I've run grant programs where there's organizations who aren't 501c3s yet. And we allowed them to have a fiscal agent so that way the grant program was open to them, even though they didn't meet the eligibility requirements yet themselves, or maybe they never would. So I think the hope is that having this sponsorship opportunity, plus now a more expansive definition, that hopefully we are capturing and allowing the space to be open to a broad diversity of community organizations that serve Bethlehem. So I just want to make that note that it really is not meant to, it's meant to be more inclusive rather than less inclusive.
All right, something more. I also know that library card holders can check out a room for smaller meetings. So it's not like or some smaller organizations have no access to room space. And the other thing is the board has committed to review this policy quarterly. I mentioned to Jeff, it might be like every 6 months, but whatever the board decides, so that if in the event it's proven or shown through the reports to the staff that this is excluding organizations or limiting people unfairly, then the board can always reconsider.
Any other comments or discussions?
I would just say that while there might be a learning curve with this new policy, we've cast a very wide net of inclusion, and I'm happy with the result.
I have one more thing. I noticed that there's a training module mentioned in here. And I know that I think it goes into effect in July. So I thought to myself, somehow that module has to be
Yep.
developed. Okay.
Yes.
That was one thing I.
I gotcha.
It's like,
Yep.
module. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, anyone else? Okay, I have a couple comments. First, I would thank Carolyn for all her work on this, way above and beyond the call of duty. And Charmaine, just to kick this off in December. I also want to say that we should need to be serious about the quarterly review. This is a brand new policy. And we need to be, accountable to ourselves to make sure we review it on a quarterly basis and a yearly basis after that. That's right in the policy. The two implementation issues are the training module, which we've given you not much time to get going, but we trust you that you'll get something going on that. And also the price of the rooms, which we didn't really talk about, but I think, my understanding is that we'll adopt close to what the school district adopts as a guideline, but we should come back and talk about that after a couple experiences there, because there's a price, if we rent the room, there's going to be a cost for the first time. So I think we're ready to go. And if there's any other questions.
Since we're doing shout outs, I know that Mark also had gave a significant amount of time in both versions, or how many versions we had, played a major.
The entire board gave.
Yeah, the entire board also did, but I know that Mark was also like doing significant amounts of writing. So, I want to give kudos to everyone, but also it was like a drafting team, and I want to give and also to Jen Crawford, who probably helped us keep track of everything.
Yes. Okay, so any further discussion on the policy? All those in favor, please somebody raise your hand or saying aye. Seeing no opposition, the policy is approved. Okay. Go deep breath here. You're fun for a while. The next item on the agenda is the code of conduct resolution. And I just want to preface that item on the agenda with a little bit of narration. So as everyone knows, there was a meeting on December 4th. And there's two meetings that happened in early December, which were quite controversial. The first meeting was a kind of a meeting of the community. The second meeting was a meeting of the community as well. And there was a lot of things that happened at that the second meeting, especially a lot of, frankly, bad behavior on a lot of different people. Having been in attendance at that meeting, there's things going on in the hall. There's things going in the room here, and the board decided to have the meeting. I think it was the right decision, but it was a pretty contentious meeting. And there's a lot of, in the aftermath of that December meeting, there were two major actions taken against Bethlehem Neighbors for Peace. One was taken by the director because they clearly violated the policy in regard to selling books. It was not the first violation that group had. It was a third violation, I think, that group had, and as far as selling things. That was one of the major actions taken after that meeting. That action was appealed to the board, and the board actually directed to the director to look at the length of the sanction. So that was the first action that was taken. The second action was a motion that this board passed at the December meeting, their December regular meeting, that was basically a motion without a sanction. It was a motion to talk about what the responsibility as the group, what the group was for the actions of the speaker and some other things that happened at that December meeting. So that motion has been under discussion since it passed by every member of this board. And we've talked about it, I think, more than any other motions in my over a decade of service on the library board. So the resolution of that motion is what's resulting in this resolution that's before us today. And I'm going to actually read the whole, I'm going to take the time to read the whole resolution into the record, and also for the people on YouTube.
Mark, just a quick edit. The
Sure.
second whereas clause should say 2023 instead of 2024.
Okay.
Just before we put that into the record.
Okay. And there are a couple slight tweaks on what's in the packet. This I want to save for the record. So give me a second here. Whereas on December 4th, 2023, the community group Bethlehem Neighbors for Peace, or the group, hosted an event at the Bethlehem Public Library. And whereas on December 4th, 2023, while the event was ongoing, the library director ejected 2 individuals from the event on the basis of a violation of the library's patron conduct policy, but was unable to fully respond to all instances of unauthorized behavior during the event. And whereas in response to specific complaints from library patrons, on December 11th, 2023, the Library Board of Trustees passed a resolution to consider sanctions against the group related to the conduct of the individuals at the event in violation of the library's policies, including the patron conduct policy. And whereas after receiving additional complaints regarding the conduct of individuals at the event, the library has investigated such complaints and reviewed the behavior of additional individuals at the event in relation to the patron conduct policy. And whereas upon such investigation and review, the library found numerous instances of patron behavior at the event that were in violation of the library's code of conduct. And whereas the library is not able to determine the identity of all individuals in violation of the library's patron conduct policy, or potentially in violation of the library's patron conduct policy at the event. And whereas the library has concluded that it is not able to equitably impose sanctions against all individuals who acted in violation of the patron conduct policy at the event. Now, therefore, be it resolved in the interest of equitable application of its policies, no sanctions will be imposed by the board on the Bethlehem Neighbors for Peace pursuant to the December resolution, and be it further resolved that also in the interest of equitable application of its policies, the board shall impose no further sanctions against anyone in attendance the night of the event based on violations of the code of conduct at the event. So that resolution is before us. Need a second on that resolution?
Second.
Caroline seconded. Any further discussion on the resolution? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, seeing the votes, that resolution carries. Thank you.
Just a comment, I want to thank the staff for some significant efforts in terms of investigating, of collating and of gathering and paying attention to and investigating each complaint that we received about that night. Significant efforts went into that.
I wasn't planning on saying this, but I think the idea of equity is very important here. There are some members of this community who are very identifiable, based on either physical characteristics or familiarity, and there are some folks who are not. And so taking action only against those who we can identify because of our familiarity or because of they stand out more is not an equitable treatment. So I appreciate that's part of the resolution, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay, moving on. The next order of business is construction manager, page 39. Take it.
Okay, hey, so we had several interviews. We had 2 very strong proposals for construction manager. The interview team that was assigned to interview both of them did so. And at the end of the interviews, that team is recommending to the board that you authorize me as you know, on behalf of the library, to enter into a contract with Schoolhouse Construction Services for the purposes of construction manager for our project.
Okay, I can say I was a member of the interview team. I think to further amplify what Jeff said, both applicants were very strong. This applicant, I think, had a better understanding of the project, and very happy to recommend this.
And also the cost was lower.
The cost was lower too, which is nice.
And I just want to appreciate, so Mark and I represented the board, but Jeff brought a large number of his staff there on the committee, so I just want to affirm their time and energy they put into it. I think they were evening interviews or late
They were.
afternoon. So I just want to appreciate that we had a significant number of staff members there offering their opinion and perspective. So I think it was a good group and I think it's a good recommendation.
So should you approve this, I need a motion for someone to allow me to approve this. This is a little bit over my authorization limit. What will happen is that we will get a contract that will be reviewed by our attorney, and that contract itself will come back to the board.
And am I correct? The cost of the construction manager is included in the overall cost of the project that we have previously seen.
It is a subtle but important aspect of what Suzanne, when we are talking about project cost, that is not construction cost. What we are talking about is total project cost, which includes the design, construction management, and a lot of other things that aren't actually someone here riveting a thing to another thing. So this is one aspect of this.
I take a motion.
So moved.
Okay, second. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. That motion is carried. Okay, the next item is MC salaries 24-25.
All right, so 1.5 there. So every year, as you know, we are in the middle of a 5-year contract for the majority of the employees of the library. Their increases are dictated by the terms of the contract, which have already been approved by the board. The staff that are management confidential are not included in that contract for their increases. And what you have in front of you is the staff increases that I'm recommending that are in line already with the terms of the existing contract, with one exception, which is Sherry, because she's a direct employee of the board. As I am. So she's listed on this sheet for your approval.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the schedule as proposed for the MC salaries.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. In opposition, that motion is carried as well. Thank you. Other new business.
We have several things to talk about with seeker, but I think they're probably because we had the special board meeting, the minutes were approved at this meeting. We'll talk about seeker under the building project update. Seems like a natural place for it to exist.
Okay, any other new business of the board? Okay, moving to old business, the building project update. As Jeff just said, there's a lot of seeker action here, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump out of the board packet here. And just make sure that those folks that are playing along at home. And all right, so the first part of this seeker is that we had talked about the LEAF, which is the long environmental the full environmental assessment form. I did not print out copies of this enormous form, but it is available to you. I will make sure all of you have a copy of it. It is here and we will enter it as soon as it is fully completed. We will enter that into the board packet, but I wanted to show you that is right now under the final comments came back from Bob Schofield and his group of attorneys, just to make sure that long full environmental form is in proper order. So with that, there are two things to look at. One is the most important one is another resolution full of whereases. This is a stapled packet that you all have here, and I will show it up on the screen. This is a resolution that has been drafted by our attorney. And this is basically the purpose of this is the board to formally declare its intention to want to be the lead agent, the lead agency on our environmental quality review process, the seeker process. From now on, that's why we'll be talking about this. So in this form, you're declaring that what is the project, generally where it is, that we are engaging an attorney to look at that, make sure we're all of the official notices will be met by the library, that we'll be fully in compliance with seeker resolution, with the seeker resolution. Included in that also will be we will be sending out letters, which I have available for you as in a draft form as well. And these letters where we are talking to our fellow government entities about our intention, that it is our intention to declare ourselves lead agency. So out of Bethlehem Central School District, slight change from the one you have in your packet, the Albany County Department of Public Works, which is their new name, New York State Education Department, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York State Department of Transportation, and the New York State Historic Preservation Office, that we'll call SHPO from here on out. So, so this is that formal resolution, and we've I have to note down how each of you individually vote, and we'll send this back to our attorney. As noted before, Laura disclosed potential conflict of interest because of her employment with the EC, and so she will be voting abstain automatically on this resolution.
Any questions on that before we go to the motion?
I know that Carolyn has just signed this thing of the, it says seal. Does that have to be notarized?
It's not a notary. We have a seal, the library seal, which I don't actually get to bring out all that often.
Okay.
It's kind of exciting.
And I love the.
It lives in the safe.
Can you seal some other stuff?
I set my hand in.
Yeah, you know, it's a
Sure.
paper seal,
There you
right?
go. We need someone to seal us.
All right, I'm still on my one.
Signed under the seal.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the resolution as a packet with the slight change. Okay, Charmaine, second. Second, Sarah, all those in favor, signify by saying yes, or raise your hand. No, the abstention, all those in favor, that motion carries.
You say you.
I need to get, we need,
Yes.
well, not a roll call vote, but we needed to note everybody's step.
Oh, the hands go up.
Noted.
Yep.
Stop the share real quickly, and we'll just, in the interest of completion, we will.
Accepting witnesses to the ceiling.
Sure, if anybody wants to come in and watch that, just to designate, well.
That
there's
sounds cool.
Yeah.
They are super cool.
They are cool, super
yeah.
cool. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that. We'll go back to.
Cool.
Thank you. That's exciting. So we'll get those letters out, and we will be able to make easily make all of the required public notices, both in our papers of record and to the public. We'll have a public hearing. All of those things will be forthcoming this summer as far as the environmental quality review process. So thank you. Big step.
Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is the animals and library policy, second read, page 40 to 42. And do you have any comments on it after the first read? So,
Again, I think most of this was cleanup language and modernizing some of the language and just grammatical strikeouts. And there is a marked copy if anyone wants to see what the actual change is.
okay, I will take a motion to approve the new animals library policy.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Sarah and Michelle, all those in favor, signify by saying yes. Any abstentions or negatives? Okay, this motion is carried. Second, the next one is the community bulletin board and lynch erect policy, second read, pages 43 through 45.
Sorry, this was one I. Changed a little bit. So I had sent some comments by email, but I think they got lost in the many other pressing issues. And so I didn't think about it again until I saw it. And so, you know, again, my concern is that we're being too restrictive on who can post information, right? When I think about things I'm involved with, groups in the community where there's a lot of groups that would be excluded, and I understand the desire to be consistent with the meeting room policy. And agree fully on the commercial activities. But it seems like with the meeting room, if you're an individual, you can check out, or you can still check out a room. in this policy, an individual has no way of posting any information. So, you know, and I can give a few examples, of things that would be excluded now that I think. I just want to make sure that that's what the intention is, right? So as an example, I have a little free library. I've had 2 events at my little free library. One was a grand opening, one was a banned books event. So completely in line with the mission and goals of the library. I'm not a registered charity. My library can never be a registered charity, right? Not there's.
It would cease to be little free.
Well, it's
big.
yes, and it would be wrong probably to accept donations. So that's one. There's other organizations I've been involved with that for various reasons, you know, work, whether, you know, with the school district or something along those lines, you know, parent organizations, student groups. None of these organizations or entities would ever become registered charities. So I'm just wondering if we could consider some language to enable a little bit more flexibility to allow, you know, individuals or entities, and I see you shared an older version of the policy, so I'm assuming you're doing that for a reason, but to somehow say, you know, if it's in furtherance of, or in you know, consistent with the library policy or something along those lines.
I think maybe if I could make a recommendation to the group, just rather than try to wordsmith this at the meeting, I think you've all had a lot of important motions at this meeting, and maybe my recommendation might be just to table this. And then, and I apologize that I know I saw your email come by. So for my part in that, I apologize that they didn't make it into the meeting, but maybe would be a good idea just to table this to a future.
And it's true, the policy committee, when you mentioned, it's like, I don't remember seeing it either. So I mean, I think it was just an oversight, and some of the language that the committee, if it goes back to the policy committee or back to the board, there is some very generous language in the first paragraph, so.
Of the current draft or
And for non-commercial announcements of cultural, social, and entertainment activities.
in the old version.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a motion to table this.
Yeah, I'm just saying you might want to check that first paragraph for some.
Yes.
Table it. I don't know. Can I get a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? And motion's tabled. Okay.
Yeah.
The next item of business is the meeting room policy violation update.
All right, so you know, I've taken into consideration a lot of thought and conversation. I appreciated the trustees' direction to reconsider the length of the policy and for policy violations. At the time when I imposed the sanction for the book sale at the December 5th event, the only length of time that I had to base in the policy was if someone did a no call, no show a couple times in the year, that we would impose a 1-year ban on them, and that seemed about the same level of violation of the policy, and that was the guide. I had to go with the guidance that I was given. Given all the careful thought and work of this board, the time that's been taken to carefully consider this, at this point, my decision would be to shorten that sanction to July 1st. So the imposition of the new policy, when that policy becomes implemented, at that point, the ban would be over. I will inform the group that is my decision. And then, you know, that would be contingent, like everybody else, it would be contingent upon completion of the educational module, which would be a video of me talking about the policy and how it's implemented and the rules, just to make it crystal clear to everybody what the rules are under the policy, what the non-commercial aspects, donations, you know, all of those aspects that are prohibited under the policy, make sure that's crystal clear, and that has well, anyway, just make that change so July 1st being the end of that section.
Thank you. Can you please send a copy to the board of your communication
I will.
to that group so that we all have a copy and can confirm that it went? And just a note, I want to make note of it before we forget, in our resolution that we passed back under new business, I want to make sure that we review the dates just based on what you were just saying, the dates cited in that policy to ensure that they are all correct before that goes into the formal record.
Okay. So noted.
Okay.
Okay, any other old business? Any future business? Any public participation? Sure.
And here,
As long as you project, you can stand wherever you want.
thank you again. I was aware that the latest draft policy did expand the definition of 501c3s beyond that to include other nonprofit organizations. I use the reference 501c3 really as a shorthand. 3-minute time limit might tend to go on long, so I limited my language, but I was aware of that. The point, though, is even with the expanded definition, other more informal community groups are now omitted from the definition of community organizations. There must be a reason why this is being done. I believe that I have expressed to you what I believe are legitimate concerns that I have not heard answers to. So we now have a policy under which outside, unelected, unaccountable organizations get to decide who uses facilities in this library. It's a sad thing, sorry to say. Let me leave it at that. Thank you.
Any other public participation? I see none. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So
Charmaine, Laura, second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Seeing opposition, that motion carries. We are officially